Hello, Kent Kentley here to read you the actual last chapter of David Copperfield. Jumped the gun, 2 videos ago? But this is the end of the story, Chapter 63, A Last Retrospect. And now my written story ends. I look back once more for the last time before I close these leaves. I see myself with Agnes at my side, journeying along the road of life. I see our children and our friends around us, and I hear the roar of many voices, not indifferent to me as I travel on. What faces are the most distinct to me in the fleeting crowd? Lo, these all turning to me to ask my thoughts the question. Here is my aunt, in stronger spectacles, an old woman of 80 years and more, but upright yet, and a steady walker of 6 miles at a stretch in winter weather. Always with her, here comes Peggotty, my good old nurse. The cheeks and arms of Peggotty, so hard and red in my childish days, when I wondered why the birds didn't peck her in preference of apples, are shriveled now, and her eyes, that used to darken their whole neighborhood in her face, are fainter, though they glitter still. But her rough forefinger, which I once associated with a pocket nutmeg grater, is just the same, and when I see my least child catching it as it totters from my aunt to her, I think of our little parlor at home when I could scarcely walk. My aunt's old disappointment is set right now. She is godmother to a real living Betsy Trotwood and Dora, the next in order. She says she spoils her. Among my boys this summer holiday time, I see an old man making giant kites, gazing at them in the air with a delight for which there are no words. He greets me rapturously and whispers with many nods and winks, "Trotwood, you will be glad to hear that I shall finish the memorial when I have nothing else to do, and that your aunt's the most extraordinary woman in the world, sir." Who is this bent lady supporting herself with a stick and showing me a countenance in which there are some traces of old pride and beauty, feebly contending with a querulous imbecile, fretful wandering of the mind? She is in the garden, and near her stands a sharp, dark, withered woman, with a white scar on her lip. Let me hear what they say. "Rosa, I have forgotten this gentleman's name." Rosa bends over her and calls to her. "Mr. Copperfield." "I am glad to see you, sir. I am sorry to observe you in the morning. I hope time will be good to you. I am sorry to observe you are in mourning. I hope time will be good to you." Her impatient attendant scolds her, tells her that I am not in mourning, bids her look again, tries to rouse her. "You have seen my son, sir?" says the elderly lady. "You are reconciled?" Looking fixedly at me, she puts her hand to her forehead and moans. Suddenly she cries in a terrible voice, "Rosa, come to me, he is dead!" Rosa, kneeling at her feet, by turns caresses her and quarrels with her, now fiercely telling her, "I loved him better than you ever did," now soothing her sleep on her breast like a sick child. Thus I leave them, thus I always find them, thus they wear their time away from year to year. What ship comes sailing home from India, and what English lady is this married to a growling old Scotch Croesus with great flaps of ears? Can this be Julia Mills? Indeed it is Julia Mills, peevish and fine, with a black man to carry cards and letters to her on a golden salver, and a copper-colored woman in linen, with a bright handkerchief round her head to serve her Tifton in her dressing-room. Julia is steeped in money to the throat, and talks and thinks of nothing else. I liked her better in the desert of Sahara. And lo, the doctor, always our good friend, laboring at his dictionary, somewhere about the letter D, and happy in his home and wife, working at his chambers in the temple, with a busy aspect, and his hair, where he is not bald, made more rebellious than ever by the constant friction of his lawyer's wig. I come in a later time upon my dear old Traddles. His table is covered with thick piles of papers, and I say, as I look around me, "If Sophie were your clerk now, Traddles, she would have enough to do." "You may say that, my dear Copperfield, but those were capital days too in Holborn Court, were they not?" "When she told me you would be a judge. But it was not the town talk then." "At all events," said Traddles, "if I ever am one." "Why, you know you will be." "Well, my dear Copperfield, when I am one, I shall tell the story as I said I would." And now, as I close my task, subduing my desire to linger yet, these faces fade away, but one face, shining on me like a heavenly light by which I see all other objects, is above them, and beyond them all, and that remains. I turn my head and see it in its beautiful serenity beside me. My lamp burns low, and I have written far into the night, but the dear presence, without which I were nothing, bears me company. Oh, Agnes, oh, my soul, oh, may the face be by me when I close my life indeed. So may I, when realities are melting from me like the shadows which I now dismiss, still find thee near me, pointing upward. And that is the end of David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, given to me by my grandmother 22 years ago on an Easter visit. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I will see you for the next book, which is going to be A Christmas Carol.